Hey guys, how you doing? Billie Eilish is coming out with a new album and the cover is pretty cool. So I thought I would maybe do another Procreate episode here. So stay tuned here to watch how I make a stencil on a person's face. Yep, that's what we're doing. And smash that like button. Subscribe. So Billie Eilish is coming out with a new album at the end of July, and we can't wait. The cover was kind of cool, so thought I'd do an episode on how to make a stencil out of someone's face. She's tricky because she's kind of light, and there's a lot of light in this picture, so I'm going to show you how to bring out some of those contrasts before you do the stencil. So I just imported this image. I'm gonna do my own version of her, alter it a bit, I think. She's very sultry and sort of sad and spiritual looking at the same time. It's a very cool cover. And I love that it says happier than ever. And she's crying. You get a kick out of her. Yeah, let's try this out. I'm going to, I think, include the shoulders. I was just trying to decide how much of this I'm gonna crop out. I want her big so I can get the detail. If all the extra stuff bothers you, you can go to Canvas, crop and resize. So it's pretty good resolution. Zooming in on her face here, I can I can actually trace out her eyelashes pretty well, so that's good. Her makeup and everything is like perfect, and they haven't done too much Photoshop to her face, which I really appreciate. So I can see a lot of the texture of her skin, so I can tell this is a good resolution here for tracing. I think you can probably do lower resolution pieces, but don't expect to have like a high realism look or something. Depends what you're going for. So yeah, start up anywhere. Let's just kind of start in the eye here. So I'm gonna pick out all the blacks here first, all the small details. Making a new layer on top so we don't mess up Billie. Actually, hold on, I promised you some editing. I'm gonna save the colored version here, duplicated that layer, and we're just gonna try a little method. We'll desaturate here. If we're going for a black and gray piece, it's gotta be a little darker. So I was noticing how the blacks in the eyelid here actually start to blend in with the hair, the shadow of the eyelid. Do you see that? Talking to you, viewer. Smash that like button, subscribe. This area right here. So if you're picking out the shadows around the eye, there's no gradient if you go too dark. So you want to base your brightness off the darkest contrast in the image. So I can see the difference between the eyebrow and the eyelid right there. I could go a little higher, but I kind of want to keep it dark. That definitely darkened this corner here, so let's see if from there. Let's see, I can see the eye here pretty good. you know, you want to also remember that you're not going to get as much detail in a tattoo. But if you're going for high realism, the goal is to pick out as much as possible, at least try. Yeah, you don't really know what you get till you're done, not gonna lie. Anyway, let's figure out if we want to play with curves at all. This is gamma. It's a way to kind of lighten or darken certain segments of the image, like midtones, highlights, shadows. It's really only need like 3 points or so. So that's the way you can alter the areas a little differently. And then you can go back to your saturation. A little clue about saturation. The reason why you can see more differentiating grays here has to do with how your eyes work. But you can see a little more differentiating grays if your saturation's not completely down to nothing. Do you want to see that many grays? I don't know. That's the other question. I do. I like seeing the grays. It's a little easier on the eyes too, I think, just a little bit to have some color, so not all the way down. I'm looking at this sweater and I'm getting scared. Oh man, should I try to do this sweater? Should I stencil out this sweater? Yeah. It would have to be a pretty large scale portrait of her to get all the deets of the sweater in there. That's all just like really gray, light gray shadowing with no hard blacks except for in here. So it's good to look at some of the quality of the image. Where are your blackest blacks? Where are your whites? You have your super ultra whites, like the white of the eye here, and some of these speckles of light here where her tear is. You want to bring that out. Another little white bow right there, a little bow, 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 bow. You can bring all that shit out. So don't forget highlights, and don't tattoo over them in advance. So that is, you know, one of the things that you risk when you doing the stencil method here that I do. But all right, so I'm kind of liking the contrast here where it's I can see all the blacks. So now I'm just gonna start in choosing, I just like purple. What can I say? I like purple. But you know, use whatever color that suits your fancy. You got your blues here. You got your lime green, your limey. Let's make sure you can see it. And make a new layer. Don't forget a new layer. Yeah, so there's really no easy way around it if you're going for what I'm going for. I'm a beginner, and this is how I learn. Do as you will. You know, simplify the image. I'm just showing you the way that I like to plan it out, is by just learning, sort of like just learning what's here shape-wise to make up Billie Eilish's face on the cover of her new album. Where are the blacks? If you think of it more like a math equation or something, to me it makes more sense that way. Like you're picking out the blacks because that's, you're gonna tattoo that black, right? You're gonna start with that, or you know, make sure to get those parts done to kind of define the areas. And the whites, you're gonna want to make sure you're identifying all your whites here and picking those out. Which brush do I use? It doesn't matter. No, I guess it matters. Okay. There's a lot of people use a studio pen or the technical pen, smaller. Lately I've just been using this one that I probably shouldn't use. I don't know. I've never seen anyone else use this one, but I like it. It's called Syrup. I use Syrup. It's Syrup. It's for fun. I use it for fun. So here we go. You know, syrup comes in many flavors. Okay, when you're doing an eye or a circle or anything, there's always the option to make the smart circle. So I just kind of held it at the tip and it smoothed it out. Without it, it's a little, you know, it's hand drawn, slightly wobbly. With it, without it, with it. I could try to make it better, but that would be the perfect curve. But I actually feel like the hand-drawn version somehow makes things look a little less robotic. Not sure. As you can see, it's very easy to draw on your tablet inadvertently. Okay, so why am I stippling now? Because the areas that I'm going over aren't black. So I should talk about that more. Should stick to the blacks really for the moment and try to finish those up. And do like the shadow in this eye. It's cool. And then I'm thinking, yeah, so sometimes this is an example of when the color version can help differentiate from color and shadow. I do plan on doing some color in that eyeball probably, so I'm gonna just should probably trace out the eyeball part. Her pupils are really tiny here, so you can see there's some differentiation I could not see in the black and white version. And that's, I mean, that's the goal really, you're trying to simplify it. But for the eye, since we are doing color, let's plan it in color too. It makes the most sense. Just gonna backtrack a little bit here. No worries. There are like 3 lights in her eyes. Just to give you an idea how well lit she is. There are at least 3 used, I can tell because I can see their reflections in her eye. A fill light, strobe light, and some kind of other strobe light. Then it looks like there might be a reflector underneath her. Boom, right there. Actually, really huge reflector going from this end to the end of her eye. I almost feel like I see someone's hand right here, but I might be tripping. Her eyes are just really pretty. So I guess my photo's pretty high res if I can at least imagine these things are happening. But it is kind of interesting how you can look into someone's eye in a photo and figure out how it was lit. This is like pixel size detail. You're zooming in. I'm zooming in way closer than you're ever gonna like look at this as you tattoo. But that's how I'm gonna get like better, crisper lines and more realistic look to her if I stick to her face as close as possible. But there's also a lot of interpretation skills here that are taking place that I can't really say would be the same for everybody. I think everyone works differently. So like her eye action on that side is very light. One of the things is Billie Eilish is like singing about eyes, and she has big old blue eyes. It's like, you don't want to screw up the eyes, you know? It's the one thing. So as you zoom back, you can see how light everything is right now. And this is gonna get darker. I'm gonna try to start trusting myself a little more in my shading process. And I want my stencils to be more simplified. It's something I've been working towards talking about as I've gone here. I like the detail of my stencil when it's helpful. Sometimes it works against you. Too much detail can get convoluted. And I've noticed that the extra lines sometimes just blend together in the smaller areas. So when it gets down to these smaller details, I'm trying to tell myself to simplify it and remind myself to use my image as a reference instead of resorting only to my stencil. Okay, so stencil's a guide. It's not an exact map of what you do, but to learn, I've been treating it like an exact map of what to do. So I just wanted to make that clear because I know that everyone's gonna have a different way of learning, and so this is my way of learning. Hi, welcome. Tattoos can be simple, they can be complicated. For whatever reason, every type of art I've ever made, I always felt like I've overcomplicated it anyway, so I might as well jump into the more complicated stuff. I end up using a slightly different version, I finally got it lined up here. You want to make sure your reference image is absolutely edited to where you need it to be to trace it before you start. And that's why we increase those contrasts on this version of the image, just to show you the difference here. Again, so this is the version I'm going with for the stencil. We have the original image here, beautiful image of Billie Eilish. There's a softness to it. You're not going to be able to render this as well, that softness. You need to harden up a little bit. Just think harden up the image, contrast the image. Now we stencil over. So that's a quick summary of all the mistakes I just learned through this process. You can edit that part. Something I've noticed is that eyes truly do make up a big portion of somebody's personality and face. Eyes are super important. If you're not good at eyes, I would just start with eyes. Just drawing eyes. They're tough, but they're fun. And once you do get good at one or two, you kind of can figure out most eyes. Everyone has a slightly different shaped corner. Eyelids can be very different in how to show which type of eyelid is going to be shaded differently. Some people have more of a crevice in their eyelid. Some people have more of a sort of a second eyelid that's flatter. Billie Eilish kind of has something in between, I think. So her eyelid's kind of a little flat, and then it does have a wrinkle here. She's looking up. So I have to remember when I'm doing this, I want to show that little wrinkle. That's definitely, those are the small details that are gonna, I think, help it look real when you're drawing it and when you are tattooing it, I mean. Tattooing silicone. I'm on the technical pen now. It gets a little smaller, and it looks like some of this line work a little pixelated. So actually the smaller brush seems smoother. See that? So if you're doing small details, let's use that technical pen from now on. Maybe a little larger details, let's do that studio pen. Note to self. So what we're doing here on the Floaty Lady channel, I'm teaching myself and you're getting taught too if you're watching. So a lot of stuff going on here with the hair. What I'm gonna tell myself is that everywhere I'm gonna do these little lines, I'm going to shade. I'm trying to shade her very softly in her hair this time. One of the things I've been struggling with is hair, making it look real and not too linear. I see a lot of people just simplify hair and make it into large, sort of like big lines. I think that could be something I do maybe for some of these here. Maybe I should just pick those out, but let's see. Her hair's pretty thin. It's fine and soft. I think I might just want to shade this. See if I can pull it off, huh? Always make sure you've got a new layer for your stencil. I can't stress that enough. This is just drawing 101. Procreate 101. It's actually a really beautiful moment right here. If you look closely, there's a nice end to the gray here. This white is very white on the top of her head. I almost think, yeah, that's our ultra white. Is it the same as this white? Let's see. I'm gonna remove the stencil. So here's our ultra white reference. The dot and eye is always a safe place to assume you're using the ultra white. So then you want to use that reference. And let's zoom up here to the hair. Let's see. No, you can tell it's not as white. If you really want to see, let's do a super specific test. I'm right in the middle of that eye. I'm pretty sure that's the ultra white. Let's see if we can draw with that and be seen on the hair. Oops. We don't want to draw on our stencil layer. Let's do a layer. Oh, look at that. Let's see. Let's go ultra white here. Okay. Let's prove it by doing ultra white here. Can you see ultra white on top of her hair? Yeah. So her hair's not quite ultra white, not quite those bright whites that we're gonna use in the eye. By the way, we're gonna exaggerate that bright white in the eye. So it may not be an ultra white like this, but it will be when I'm done with it. So there is kind of a nice moment here if you zoom in. You can see there's some interesting shapes here. How big is this piece gonna be on something? So, you know, let's say screen size. Nice big portrait of Billie Eilish with the head and shoulders and everything. I'll probably crop that sweater up so I don't have to do so many frickin' deets from here down, to be honest. I think it would also just look nice crop sort of like this. So yeah, I mean, it would have to be a decent size piece to get all those details in the hair. If you're trying to do like a micro portrait and you zoom out here, you can simplify those shapes. So you see a few lines in the hair here, a few lines in the hair there. Let's fixate on trying to just trace out what's there without too much detail. So I'm just gonna simplify this and say this kind of comes from here. Some gray is coming from there, coming down, and then it gets darker right in here. Darker, that dark gray kind of comes down, and there's, look, it kind of comes down here and it goes to this point. So we're gonna show that and make sure the hair is moving, has good motion. Here's one. Kind of just marking the areas where you remember seeing these shadows. And here we are into our blacks. We're gonna hard line that. I'm gonna invent a little hair there against her cheek that looks Do you see, guys, this little hair right here? Do you see? Do you see this hair? Do you see it? Mark it, bitch. I'm just saying, this would be cool. Comes down this way. There's a little detail of the hair coming down, a little brightness that intersects that black. I think, you know, that black area could potentially look bad if it's too thick and bold with nothing there. So I'm gonna put, I like the wispy hair coming into it. I think that's gonna make it look a little more real. All right, but look, okay, here we go. So we got the black, it comes down, it's really dark black, and then it comes down into the hair right here. This is all the shadow, and then the light hits it. But it doesn't truly hit it to right here. So you got a lighter part, you got a medium part, you got a dark part, okay? So how do we deal with that area? Hard lines for black, and then from black to gray, you kind of want to show the direction. This is something I've been kind of working on with as a little trick for my own stencils. They're called arrows. You may have seen them before. So this is me telling myself this is a black area coming down, and you're gonna be fading out into something else, okay? I like seeing the arrows big enough in the stencil, so if it looks like it's not going to be big enough to see the arrows, it's not that helpful, but it's just something I've been doing. Maybe I won't need to do this later, but something I've been doing to kind of help me when I put the stencil on the skin see the difference between the dotted lines and the thick lines. And if you have an arrow in there, it's a point of reference in the image that you're using. I'm going to use this actual picture right here with the stencil on top of it while I'm tattooing, and I can turn this on and off to see where that area is on the face as a reference. I've gotten to the point where I mostly just stare at the actual picture because I'm just trying to make it look at the picture, which is ultimately what you want to do. But if you get a little lost, or you need a reminder, or just want to make sure you're in the right spot, you just turn the stencil on, you see where are those arrows. I mean, it's kind of obvious under her chin, that's where the dark spot is, but there are some areas in pictures where that can be less obvious. I just think it kind of looks cool. And I kind of just do this stipple shade filling motion. These areas here. Let's fill from this distance and see how that works. Let's make our brush bigger. Now, it seems like maybe I'm filling bigger blocks of area, skipping some of those smaller details that really don't need to be picked out. Self-teaching is really wonderful. It's the best way, I think, to learn in your spare time, and then to have other teachers too in your life. I think all of it is great. I don't think there's one way to do things. I don't think anyone should ever pigeonhole themselves into one way of learning. Learning comes in all shapes and forms. I just want to put that out there. So kind of zooming in for some of these little deets. Looks like we could just draw like some thicker lines right there to just do some hairs off the top. This next piece, I really want to hone in on the hair. I'm going to try to plan out the hair a little better as far as just what kind of liner I'm going to use to bring that out. I would really like to just do like a big fat liner for some of these hairs. Be awesome. She'd have to be a little bigger. We'll see. If not, just my 3. Yeah. Dogs are barking. So she's got this little complex bundle of hairs here. So in the past, when I've traced out hair, it hasn't really made sense, just from an impact perspective, if that makes sense. Your eye just wants a hair or 2 in there, and it gets pretty crazy right there. So let's thicken up our line and try drawing like the individual hairs here. That's sort of what I'm seeing. Maybe a little less. I got the tip there. Ooh, that's looking great. Wow. Geez, that just makes a really nice, it's gonna be a nice t-shirt. Check out my art on t-shirts, floatyladytattoo.com, floatyladytattoo.com. Thank you. A little complicated right here in the front. Where exactly does that bang line stop? There's a lot of similar grays in that area. It's definitely a problem area, I can tell right now. So I'm gonna plan that out. I see her bang line generally going this direction. Let's create a new layer and kind of draw where her bangs are currently. So you don't want too many hairs hanging below that, but a couple little ones coming down is cool. So that's generally gonna be like the line there. Where do bangs? Go back to my stencil layer. Fade that out. It's a nice light line reference now. Go back to your stencil layer. Okay. Yeah, I don't really see any definite tips here, so I'm just gonna See how that looks. I like it. Yeah, it looks a little too linear, so let's just make that better. So now we're gonna just make some irregularities here. Like I don't really even see these, I'm just pretty much making it up. Okay, and let's erase that line. Zooming out and see. What kind of deets can you see from this distance? Zooming in for these details. So I thickened up my liner. I think I used a 10. Yeah, so these will be straggly loose hairs here. That outer one could be a little thinner. There's hairs kind of coming out, intersecting this area. See how that looks. So you could get a little crazy here, right? Drawing all these little hairs. It's gonna be tricky to finish off that top section there. I think what I might do is just make a little halo of light here, of gray. So let's pick out the shape of the head that we wanna show. Should be the brightest areas there. First, let's go back this up a wee bit. Some of them might look cool, but I think first we should try to establish this line. You know, a straight line's not gonna look good, so I'm just trying to find the texture here, suggestive nature of the hair here. Everyone's got little fuzzies. Top a little flat. Imaginary name there. Do this here. All right, let's see the difference here between this light area at the top. So we're going to start picking that area out. Picking out the darker areas of the hair. There's not going to be a hard line here in the middle, so let's make this a little lighter. Just a hint of the shape a little better. Yeah. So just a general guide here. Let me get that bang across there. And there's going to be another shadow here. You see that? Okay. Gotta find the shadow. Just making sure this isn't too squared off, too I guess too controlled of a line here. Just kind of boxing off the area where I see the lightest part of her hair. This is basically just all very, very light. This would be skin tone or maybe color. We'll see. I don't know what I'm gonna do. We'll figure that part out on the silicone. I think ultimately, like, this gray background needs to be behind her to really even see the hair, right? You need the contrast. You need the gray background. So these lines of hair here, those have to be done with like a lighter color. Lighter. Otherwise, if you're still watching, smash that like button, please. Subscribe. Just teaching myself how to tattoo. I have the love for portraiture, faces, shading. Done a lot of charcoal, sketching, figure drawing. Thank you. Bye.